It is a beautiful day in mid-July, and I am driving upstate to the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York, where I will spend the next week with some people I love, spending some time in nature. You can see these are some shots of my drive up. You can see the beautiful forestry as I drive through the curvy, windy, and hilly back roads. This is a week I cherish a lot. I get to go on some beautiful hiking trips to see some beautiful views. Here is a shot from Sam's Point in upstate New York, where you can actually see Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey at the same time. So it's great to go up here and get a little bit of perspective. All your problems seem pretty small up here. But something that doesn't seem small is a tall building that I can see off in the distance that I'm a bit curious about. So when the sun sets, I decide I'm going to take a trip to check it out. And as you pull in, we could see that this is the gorgeous Resorts World Catskills casino. So we arrive for the night shift to sit down at some poker tables and see how the games are up here. Alright guys, welcome back to the vlog. I'm standing here in front of the beautiful Resorts World Catskills location. It's my first time here. Was up on a trip for the week in the mountains upstate New York. So figured we'd give it a shot. It's about 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday. So hopefully there's some games running. Poker room is 24 hours from what it says online. So hopefully we'll hop in some games. Hopefully there's some action, and they said online that they're going to let me record. So hopefully that's the case. We can get some good hands for you guys for the vlog. All right, good luck guys. As we walk in, you can see that there is a bright and vibrant pit where you have table games and slot machines, but like in a lot of casinos, the poker room is kind of relegated off to the side, so we have to take the trip up the escalator before we can arrive at the entrance of a pretty decent poker room. They had about 4 tables running here. They're all about 6 max, so we're playing 6-handed, 1-3. We buy in for the max, which is $400. We try to get a 2-5 game going, but only got about 3 or 4 names interested, so let's jump right into the 1-3. For our first hand, we pick up King 4 offsuit in the small blind. There are 3 limps to us, and this is way too loose, but let's try and win the pot now. We make it $21. The big blind quickly folds, as do the other 2 limpers. So we take down a very small pot, but this is the first hand that we played. It's always nice to take it down for the confidence. Next orbit, we are going to look at Jack 9 suited in the cutoff. There's a $6 button straddle on and a hijack limp. We decided to shoot things up to $30. The button thinks about it for a while before he makes the call, as does the big blind. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop, which comes out fairly good for our range. It comes King Deuce 4 with 1 club. Big blind checks. I'm going to be going for a small bet with a lot of my range on this king high board. I might check back a board where I don't have a backdoor club draw, but with the 4 of clubs out there, I think it's fine for us to go kind of for a stabby C-bet. The button folds, as does the big blind, fairly quickly, so we're going to pick up another pot with fairly little resistance. You guys might be wondering why I showed those first 2 fairly innocuous hands. Well, if you think back to what I said at the beginning of the video, they said online that they're going to let me record, so hopefully that's the case. We can get some good hands for you guys for the vlog. So even though it is clearly posted online that they allowed filming, and the fact that I've seen several other poker vlogs from Resorts World properties, the floor comes over and fairly politely asks me to shut off my camera, which I am always inclined to do. Unfortunately, there are no more videos for hands tonight. We'll have to put them in the recapper, but they are some pretty interesting ones, so stick around, we'll break those down. So you guys just saw the first 2 orbits, nothing too crazy. Before we pick up our first interesting hand, we're playing 6-handed, and the straddle was on from a couple action players. And there's one to my right who straddles for $6 under the gun. So we're playing six-handed. That's technically the low jack. So I'm in the hijack with pocket eights, 8 of clubs, 8 of diamonds. I raise it up to $20. The button calls, as does the small blind, and the straddle completes. So we're 4 ways to a flop, 80 in the middle, which comes out ace of spades, jack of spades, 9 of hearts. So with the flop, 2 players check to me, but I'm not a huge fan of stabbing multi-way, especially with hands like pocket eights with so little chance to improve. I'd much rather have a hand like, let's say, queen 10 or king 10 even, king queen even for a gut shot, right, to start to bluff. Pocket eights, we don't really block any of the strongest hands, so I decided to knuckle it over, and the button checks it back pretty quickly. Turns the 5 of clubs, 2 checks in front of me again. I decided to take a stab. With 80 in the middle, I bet out a size that I don't really love. I went for $30. It was just tough for me to kind of find a one-third pot sizing, I should say. The button calls, so we're heads up with about 150 in the middle. 140, I should say, 140 in the middle. Which comes our gin card. It's the 8 of hearts. So the board completes queen 10, which is an open ender on the flop, but other than that, not a lot to worry about. I'm gonna go big here for value. Our hand is very disguised. So I shoot it up, I make it 100. I go 100 into 140, and he pretty much almost snap jams for 285 more. So it's kind of a gross spot. I mean, we have a set. It's hard to fold. It's hard to fold sets. He's never gonna have aces or jacks. Could he have pocket nines that plays this weird way? I wouldn't really expect him to check back the flop with pocket nines, but I've seen players do weirder things. I think queen 10 makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, too much sense. I thought about it for a while. He looked really confident, so if I was gonna just use live reads and stuff, I would call, but I was actually a little bit tilted because the floor had just, before this hand, come over and asked me to stop recording. So, you know, tilt and the fact that I have a very disguised hand, I decided to stick in the call. He fast rolled over the ace 9 of diamonds, so that is 2 pair, so obviously no good. Bit of a nit roll from me, but we'll scoop a fairly large pot. I guess that is $800 plus pot, $850 pot. So very nice one to start the session. No footage, unfortunately, but we'll move on. Nothing too interesting to note for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I played this one hand where I flopped 2 pair with queen 10 after I raised a cutoff, and the big blind, who is a very action player, was kind of tilted because he had to fold what I assume was a big draw when I overbet jammed the turn. He didn't have a lot of money left, so he has about $95 in the middle. He was pretty action. He was straddling a lot, and he kind of didn't realize he was under the gun. It was a weird scenario where someone had come to the bathroom and come back kind of thing, so he had thought he was in the big blind, and so the cards are in the air. The dealer is dealing, and he asks, oh, can I put the straddle on? And when he asks this, he hasn't received a card yet, and the dealer says, I'm sorry, like the card's already in the air. And so he was pretty visibly tilted, and so he just put his stack in. He just put $95 cold, dead, completely blind. He hadn't gotten a card yet, so I'm paying attention. Honestly, if I weren't paying attention, maybe if I had the vlog, I wouldn't have realized, right? But he hadn't looked at a card. So like if he had done this after like seeing 1 or seeing 2, I'd be like, you know, this is clearly an angle. But he was really blind, like completely blind. And so it's a bit of a weird spot because I'm on the button. This is the low jack under the gun player, playing six-handed, like I said, who shoved $95 in blind. And the hijack decides to call next to act off a stack of like a little over 400. So it's a really weird spot. I'm honestly hoping for one of 2 categories of hands. I'm hoping for top 5% or bottom 50%, you know, either something that I could just easily fold or something I can just make an easy decision with. But we kind of get a middling hand, which is a little bit awkward. I pick up pocket 7, 7 of clubs, 7 of hearts. So it's a bit of a spot. I mean, from a theory standpoint, we're 450 effective. That is about 4.5 big blinds. You know, if you consider this raise a straddle, right? Because it is a blind raise. So, I mean, for 4 bigs, it's good enough. But are people calling 95 with hands they plan to fold?
Like, I know I'm way ahead of the blind razors range, but I feel like I'm flipping at best with the guy who put in 95 off of 400. So it's really uncomfortable spot, I would say. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I decided that people just don't trap with like big hands like aces, kings, queens that often. And I feel like even jacks or tens and things like that probably are just reshoving the 400. So I decided to stick it in. We don't get snapped, which is really good. Folds back to the hijack. He's tanking. And he just says, all right, I call, kind of thing. So it's a little bit crazy. It ended up being 383 on top. So we're in for a big side with the main pot. So hoping just for like a low run out or something like that. But we actually get the 7 of spades in the window. Really great card. Board came out with a couple more broadways. I think a king and a jack on there. But I obviously have a set. I fast rolled the 7s. He said they were good. I asked if I sucked out and he said no. So most likely just kind of 2 overs, like an ace king or ace queen type of hand. But always really nice to pick up a pot, of course, that big. So let me know what you guys think about my play with pocket 7s in the comments. Would you guys shove there? Would you call? I'm glad I shoved because I don't know if we get more money in if he just has, 2 overs on the flop. But that takes us to our next hand. And this one, it's not really super interesting, maybe from a theoretical standpoint. Maybe it is. I'll take the solver in and we'll look at it a bit. But it's more interesting from like a table etiquette, table dynamic kind of thing. So there's a big stack to my left who's kind of distracted. He's like playing online poker on his laptop that's set up on like a little stand next to the table. So he's kind of half paying attention. And so I'm on the button with ace king offsuit and it folds to him and he opens the $25, but he holds his cards up in a way that I could very clearly see them. And I could see that he has jack of clubs, jack of spades. So pocket jacks. And normally I'm going to 3-bet ace king from a cutoff open, like almost 100% of the time, especially ace king suited. But I decided I didn't really want to get 4-bet. And I mean, how often do you get to play knowing what your opponent has? So I decided to flat, half kind of feeling strange about the situation. Like, yes, I'd like to play a big pot in position with a 3-bet, especially when I know the opponent's cards, but it feels kind of strange to know his cards and not, let someone know. I kind of let him know, not directly after the hand, but like a couple orbits later, like, hey, you're bleeding a little bit, like watch, like just be careful of that. So kind of wanted to be straight up and honest. I think if I'm looking to win the most money, probably a 3-bet is good there because I don't think he's putting a ton of more money in, unlike ace high or king high boards. So I decided to just flat. We go heads up to a flop with 50 in the middle, which is pretty unbelievable. It comes ace, ace, ace. So we flop quads. The nuts cannot change. And he checks it over to us. Maybe I should bet here. See what solver does. Because who bets quads here, right? But I decided to knuckle it back. Turns a 5. He now stabs for $25. Goes for half pot. I stick in the call. I don't think there's a lot of raising to be done here. So I just call. Pot's now 100. River's a deuce. He checks it over to me. I go for a chunky size of 75. I thought about overbetting because it's really hard, right, for me to have a hand like kings or queens, right, the other full houses that beat him. But maybe I could have a lot of suited aces just calling on the button. So I guess my range actually might be ace X dense when I call, but 1 for 75, he snapped it off pretty quickly. So we turned it over. We were good. Like I said, running fairly well, and fairly, I mean very well. I think playing well too, but like I said, was just kind of like strangely tilted that I was doing well. So decided to call it a night because I can't record. And just left Resorts World, super weird setup. The one in Vegas lets you record, and the website for the one in the Catskills also says you can, but I recorded for about 2 orbits before the floor came over and asked me not to.
So it was very annoying, especially because it would have been such a good session for the vlog. I only played for 2 hours because I was a little tilted. Honestly, because they asked me not to record. And then it was weird because I was playing pretty well and running pretty well, but like I was getting really tilted that I was winning and I couldn't show it on the vlog, you know, because there were some interesting hands for the vlog. So in for 400 in the 1-3 game. I started a list for 2-5, like 4 people joined, but wasn't gonna get it going. So we played 6 Animals tonight, which is my favorite, but in for 400, out for 1175. So pretty calm night. Played for about 2 hours, just because I could feel myself getting a little on tilt and didn't want to just spew it off.
But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good things. Comment down below what you guys think about the Jacks versus Ace King hand, and good luck at the tables. I will see you in the next one.